Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Future Scale podcast, a podcast created for people to understand that marketing is at the crux of everything. Today, I have a very special guest. Her name is Daisy Marconi. She's a very close friend of mine. And it was important for me to have a conversation with her just to understand the space that she is in and how it synergizes with marketing. Daisy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So as with anything, whenever somebody joins a new group, they always introduce themselves. So please introduce yourself to people that are watching the podcast.
So my name is Daisy Marconi, and I am a woman first. I am one who's finding her journey and enjoying it as she does it. And I'm a mother to two amazing little boys, and I'm a wife. We've been married for 12 years now.
Sure, that's fine.
And I've been with F&B for the last 12 years and I'm now a client experience head. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's Daisy. Love to walk and run. Yeah. And love crazy memes, and that's me in a
nutshell. So I'm laughing as she's saying she loves to walk and run because she sends me messages at 5 and I'm like, oh, I'm not feeling well today. So, Daisy, how we're going to run the session is the first thing that I'm going to do is just create a scenario for you. And that scenario really requires you to share your developmental points and teachable moments and share your story authentically.
Yeah.
So imagine they are 20 Ntabisengis, ranging from the age of 6 to where you are right now. So you need to tell your story. When you were 6, this is what happened. This is who supported you, believed in you, leading to where you are, where you're the head of customer experience, you are somebody's wife, you're somebody's mother, you're a thriving speaker on customer experience.
So my story is quite, for me, it's one of those that anytime when I look at it, I just think to myself, how did we end up where we are, right? And as a 6-year-old, the biggest believer in me was my dad. And he always used to, back then, there was a lot of girls do this, boys do that. And he was always, you can do anything. Or do you want to play that? Do that. And I think one of the things I'll never forget, especially as a young child between 6 and 8, I wanted to play soccer. And my mom was like, no, play netball. I was a tomboy. So I was a tomboy growing up. And my dad was like, if she wants to play soccer, let her play soccer, And that for me has always been in my head. I can do whatever I want to do as long as I put my efforts and my energies in the right space to do it. And so as a 6-year-old, that was the person who I always looked at. And I also, as I grew older, I'd look at my mom because also women working was one of those that was not as common. And especially in my teenage years, we used to bump heads a lot. But I find myself now, as I've grown, I look at her back in the day and how she'll balance it all and how she'll make us feel, as her children. Even if you're not there, how did you feel in that moment?
Yeah.
And that still sticks with me as a grown person. But as I started in a contact center as a contact center agent, and the weirdest thing is I've always had support from other people. Like you'd look at it and be like, I don't know if I can do that. So my first boss, he would be like, you're so good at writing reports and you're so good at getting people to do stuff. you need to consider being a team leader. I'm like, I'm not
understand,
ready.
yeah.
And I started in sales,
Mm.
and sales would make a lot of money. So you look at a team leader role and I'm like, actually, I'm okay because the commission was commissioning. So it was one of those where you're really comfortable, you're making enough money, you are just thinking this is life for, and you're in your 20s.
Yeah.
If you can buy a nice pair of shoes,
Yes.
you know, get yourself a new outfit, it feels amazing.
You're making
you know.
it.
So when I look at my early 20s, what I would tell anyone is enjoy it. Make the mistakes. Because I remember I had a cousin, Alfred, and he believed in me in my early 20s, and I didn't believe in myself. And I remember my first salary, I went into Mr. Price, and I blew it.
Here's an episode of I Blew It.
When I got home, I realized, oh, I have transport.
Yeah.
I need to eat. I need to, you know. And he was like, well, at least you did it now. I hope next month you realize that there's a lot more to life than having the best clothes, the best clothes ever. So having people who allow you to make mistakes and not to shun you when you do make those mistakes, but to guide you to say, okay, what have you learned in this moment? I think that was quite critical. But from a career perspective, I actually found the people around me, like the senior managers, the people who would actually see the potential in you. So when I moved to a team leader role, I was also quite blessed in that there was a lady who really liked me, and she took me under her arm and she'd be like, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this great, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this great. And when an opportunity for me to move into a growth space, which is more from a campaign managing and making sure that the sales come in, she was like, you're ready, go for it. And I was thinking, maybe I need to perfect this a little bit. And she took me in, and that for me also increased my confidence. Because I was like, okay, so if someone believes in me, let me try it. And when I did try it, I actually became very good at it. And I started learning things about marketing, things about increasing sales. How do you move? How do you push product? How do you ensure that the people selling the product are well equipped to show up and show up well? So from there, then I moved to sales head. So I looked after a sales department, and that was another woman who looked at me in that moment and was like, you'll be able to head up sales.
Yeah.
You'll be able to do a very good job in running a team of bankers who are selling products and be able to do it well. And I used to look at it, and there were very few females in that space. And I'd look at it and be like, but look at all these people. And when you compare yourself to those people, you're like, I don't know if I can cut it. But she always used to be like, you'll be able to do it. You just need to put your head down and be able to do it. And the craziest thing is when you do get in that space and you feel the confidence around you, it also helps you to grow. Because the moment people can trust you and trust you with a position, you yourself are able to fill the gaps that you can fill. And then fast forward to now in CX. So I moved from sales head to customer experience head. And I must say, I feel like all the little nuggets through my career have really helped me to get into this space and to be comfortable in this space and to appreciate what customer experience is. And what I really love about customer experience is it's one of those where you look at what everyone is trying to do, and it literally starts from the bottom up, like from your house. How do people experience you in the home? How do people experience you in the workplace? And then how do customers experience you and the product that you're about to bring? So that's just...
It's a very nice one. What what I want to consolidate is in your early stages, you had family members that were your anchors. I mean, your dad believed you could do anything you wanted to do, and you went for it. Even though mom was more around, girls are supposed to do this. So, thank you to your dad, and may his soul rest in peace. And then the second phase of your life, in fact, you skipped a second phase which is what I want us to talk about. You didn't talk about your schooling years, and how that experience was, and with what you were doing there. Was your goal to be ultimately where you are, or did you want to study something else, or did you believe that you could be whatever out there?
So with my schooling years, I actually, as a young person, I thought I'd get into medicine because my mom was a nurse, so I thought it was the coolest thing to do to be a doctor. And when I actually started varsity as I was working.
Oh.
So I started very late. So when my dad passed away, there were a few priorities that needed to be put in place. And once I got married, and marrying the right person is very important because it helps navigate and ensure your path moving forward. And I used to look at him and be like, oh, but I'm working. I don't know if I need to go to school. And Daniel would be like, no, of course you need to go to school. You know, it's important. Like, you're comfortable right now, but for you to have longevity in your career, you need to add a lot of elements to it.
Correct.
And I remember starting with IMM and thinking about the things that I wanted to do. Right? I thought I'm going to be a marketing exec because I enjoyed the marketing degree. It's absolutely, it has so many nuggets to take away, so many applicable moments as you take it in. And I think I was the few lucky people who start something and you grow to enjoy it as you go. And I enjoyed it so much that when I finished the first one, the bachelor's, I was like, sign me up for the postgrad.
Yes.
Because I enjoyed. I was lucky enough to study and apply it. So you come back and you're like, oh, so that's what that product is supposed to do. Oh, so all of those little things that I was learning at school, I'll then find ways to apply them at work, which then creates visibility for you because you stand out. You're not just going where everyone else is going. You are challenging, but not in an overbearing way, but you're trying to improve processes, improve products, improve the way in which we do things. So I think for me, my education, especially the tertiary part, I absolutely enjoyed it. It was tough because you've got work, you've got school, you've got a husband, you've got kids. But it truly was such a joy because I was able to see how it's improving me as a person. Yeah.
It's so nice. I actually wasn't aware that you studied marketing. It's a beautiful surprise for me. So we spoke about your university, you studying marketing. And then how did you end up in sales?
So honestly, that was the job that was there, right? So I started in contact center as we used to sell overdrafts, right? And in the beginning, I was like, I don't know if this is what I want to do or if this is how I want to see it, because I couldn't layer it up to say if I was to take this up, which direction would I go? Would I go with product manager? Would I go with campaign manager? Would I go team leader? And I was actually a team leader first, and then went back to sales. So I varied a bit, went into campaign management. So it is sales because you are ensuring, yes, you're working closely with marketing and ensuring that the right channel sells the product as best as possible.
Yeah.
So you are in sales because you are pushing that part.
Yeah.
But what I loved about sales is the energy. Like there's something about a salesperson that you can't replicate. You can go work with different business units, but if you work with salespeople, they are the most vibrant, the most energetic, the most passionate.
I can definitely attest to that because Bui was here and I'm telling you the energy was, yes.
Yeah, because you cannot sell if you're not in that space.
The enthusiasm.
Because people feed off that.
Yeah.
And customers can feel that and everyone in the room can feel that.
Yeah.
So if you come in and be like, hi, it's different to be like, everyone's like, actually, no, I'm okay.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So my move to sales was more of a tiered approach. So it started from actually selling the products, which I'm appreciative of because it makes me, as you go up, you understand
the depth,
the amount of emphasis that needs to be made at a higher level to make the processes at the bottom a lot easier. How to make the product a lot easier for the person selling at the bottom. And to actually understand how valuable the feedback is at the bottom. Because you've been there and you know the little nuggets that could actually help at the top.
Correct. Because and you consistently engage with the customer. So whenever customers complain, you're there. Exactly. Whenever customers give you praise, you're there.
Yeah.
Whenever you're not able to push sales, you're there. Yeah. You understand why you're not able to push sales. So I'll just quickly ask this one. Is your ambition to still be Chief Marketing Officer still there? Or has that shifted and why?
So not Chief Marketing Officer. I think my ambition now is, especially from an experience perspective, is to look after customer experience for all of commercial. Like to then oversee that strategy from an experience perspective across all the umbrella offerings that F&B has.
The full brand.
The full brand. I think that for me is the ambition right now. And I see a lot, especially the why, I see a lot of how marketing actually ties in with experience. And that when you look and you drill down at it, it actually is a part of that experience piece.
Yeah.
So in as much as the billboards and the advertising is so enticing, I think for me, the experience piece is quite key critical and quite crunchy for me to nibble on.
Because and I agree with you with regards to tactics used to create the awareness. But at the end of it all, if your processes aren't bedded down properly, you can adopt as many tactics as possible or catch my eye wherever. But when I go back and experience you and the experience is just so tainted, I don't think you'll be able to get the numbers that you get. So you actually went ahead of me because I wanted us to talk about your space, customer experience.
Yeah.
For those that are not very clear on what customer experience is, can you just tell us, those that don't know, what is customer experience? How does it impact a customer's lives as well as that of a business?
So customer experience is the sentiment that a customer has when they engage with a brand. Like, how does that brand make you feel? And after you feel that, what do you want to do afterwards? That's for me is always the simplest way of dealing with it. So experience in the sense that when you acquire that new product, right? When you open your account, how was that process? Did you feel like, this was an efficient process? This was amazing. It was quick. It was easy. How did it make you want to go forward? If you walk into someone's house, right, when you walk in, there's a feeling that you get. There's an experience that you get when you come in and they embrace you, when you taste the food. When you walk out, you know whether they're coming back or not, right? And I think the journey of products has actually been quite an evolution, because we've moved from where we're perfecting products to where we're now realizing that for us to have deep and meaningful relationships with the customers that we have to focus on experience. So if you look at the where we stand, even in all different industries, everyone is working on how do we make customers stay with us longer, because the more a person stays with you, the deeper the relationship, the more products they take up. You can only take up 3 products with someone if your first experience was great. So if you look at even currently in the industries, we're taking a lot of tech, and tech is a very buzzword, but ultimately tech is to enhance experiences.
Yes.
Because we're trying to improve processes.
Correct. Yes.
To enhance experiences that customers
make it a bit
have.
more proficient.
Exactly. If we have a quick and easy account opening process, that means the experience for the customer is going to be amazing.
Correct.
When you create digital banking, it means you can do your banking in your hand, which is an experience.
Correct.
And those experiences then make it possible for me to say, if someone says, I'm looking for a new bank, you're like, you should try mine.
Yes.
Mine is amazing. They will make you, everything is quick, it's easy.
Yeah.
So not only are you deepening relationships with the customer, but you're also drawing other people in based on the experiences that they have. I think the one thing that we take for granted is that if someone has a bad experience, they're very quick to tell everyone, right? If someone has a good experience, it might take a little longer for people to talk about it. And I think that's where the focus on CX is right now, because when you look at how, if someone says at a braai, do not bank with that bank because everything is so complicated, it takes too long. All of the things they're basically saying is they made me feel like this is not worth my time, it's not worth my while. So that's where we find ourselves with CX. And it's very important, because if you want to grow yourself as a brand, if you want to grow yourself in the market, the way people feel and the way people experience your brand is what will actually bring depth.
That's very true. And in essence, what you said is to create customer loyalty, you have to get your processes right.
Exactly.
And it applies to anybody, a startup, middle, and well-established. To you, what is the best customer experience process that you know of that has been better done?
So when I look at it, I would say, especially the luxury market, right? The luxury market knows exactly how to bed down the experience. From the moment you walk in, you will smell the room.
They get you.
And by the time you walk in and they ask you, do you want water or coffee, you have loosened up, you are ready to take
more.
in, by the time you open up anything that they have to offer, your yes meter is already on 1 million, because that's the experience. You're happy, and what better way to sell to a person than when they're happy?
That's true.
And I think there are lots of teachable moments that you can see from a luxury perspective. And you taking those in and making those be little things that you can plug into the experiences that we all have.
But what are those little things? I'm more interested in that, and I agree with you, particularly in the luxury space.
Yeah.
I mean, every touch point is an amazing experience. But what are those critical points that people need to consider when they want to create an amazing customer experience?
So I think one key point is customer centricity. To make sure that each of the customers are treated as an individual. And that's where, when you look at the tech and the AI that is now available, it's to say when Daisy walks into whether it's a bank or walks into a small business, know who Daisy is. You know, if Daisy's bought from you before, one of the local cafes that I absolutely love, they'll ask you, do you want a double shot of espresso? Because they know that is how I have my cappuccino. And that little touch brings a smile because you're treated as Daisy. You're not being treated as our customers, you know. And for me, that's where you start a conversation, where a person walks into the bank and you're like, good morning, Daisy, you know, because you've verified. And at every touch point, I'm treated as Daisy, not as a customer. And based on the information that you have about me, right, using the data that's available, you're able to then take that data and customize the experience for me. Because you know what, Daisy likes Starbucks. So when you're speaking to her about eBucks, you talk about Starbucks to say, have you used your Starbucks voucher? We see that voucher is still available. By the end of that phone call, I don't only love the conversation that I've had, but love my bank for being able to see that. So I think those little opportunities where you're able to treat each and every customer as an individual and customize that experience, I think that for me is what makes or the crux of any amazing experience.
You know, as you're speaking, so I'm visualizing each touch point from a retail perspective.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of a clip I saw just a couple of days ago while preparing for this.
Yeah.
So this guy had gone into one of the grocery stores and he didn't have enough money. So when he gets to the till, the cashier rings up everything and then it gets to R1, total of R1, and he's only got 50 cents. And two things happened today. The cashier gave him such a dirty look. And he was so ashamed. And then the second part of it, which always happens, and I had anticipated it because I've seen it so many times, she lifted her head, called the supervisor, and she's like, there's a Tabi saying, void! No, she's saying void. And everybody in the shop can hear that, listen, Tabi Singh does not have enough money. The third thing that she then said, after the manager then voided, the supervisor then voided the transaction, she immediately called a Daisy while I'm still trying to get my things in order. Then as I walk away, then she calls like this Ntabi saying hypothetically, then says to Ntabi saying, listen here, you must never come back to the store. You must never buy from us ever again. So, I mean, as you're speaking, I'm thinking that experience is such a flawed experience and it doesn't give any customer any dignity whatsoever. With your experience, I mean, you've painted a beautiful picture about refining CX and giving people the best experience ever. But such scenarios happen. And they happen across board, whether you're in an affluent area or not.
Yeah.
You experience people like that. How do you guys, as specialists in CX, solve for that? What would be quick steps of solving for that?
So some of the quickest are focusing on service recovery because everyone needs a service recovery plan because we're not going to get it right all the time.
Yeah.
But when you don't, what do you have in place to ensure that recovery happens and happens quickly?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to wait too long because then it festers. Right?
Yes.
Because you can imagine this poor person will never go back to that shop. Ever. You know? it could be 10 years from now, they can purely afford the shop. And because of that tainted memory, they'll never go back. So I think focusing as a business on service recovery and learning to say, from a recovery perspective, where are we going wrong? Because you can never stop learning. What can we do better? What can we be more proficient at? What are the feelings that customers have about us? And where can we put as focus points? Because sometimes it could be that it could just be something about teaching people how to have empathy for customers. Because in that moment, it's just empathy. But a person is just thinking, you have made me ring all these things, and now I have to call someone, and there's a long queue waiting, you know. But just staff education could go a long way. But also, there are certain things that that could also counter situations like that, like learning to be like, so how do we help a customer without having the whole store know that you know, there's a void here, you know, and a little thing like that will keep someone's pride, even in a situation whereby you're not able to do what you wanted to. So I think focusing especially on service recovery and learning as a business how to become better from the feedback that you get there goes quite a long way from a sales perspective.
That's actually very important, because businesses definitely need to focus on that. So it's not just having a sales manager and having just a CX head or specialist or anything of that sort. There really should be people that are dedicated to the different touch points of customers. And if I do have a negative experience, how do you quickly solve for that? And as one gets older and delves deeper into it, you actually kind of figure it out. Like when you were young and you were at a restaurant, maybe they gave you some awful tasting thing. The manager quickly comes in and says, I'm so sorry about this. We'll give you a plate for free. And that is recovery, because at the end of it all, you go, okay, they quickly solved for it, and they actually gave me something tastier. So that's really, really good. So, ma'am, you've spoken about, you slightly touched on sales, but I don't want to delve too much in that. You touched on sales, you touched on CX, you also touched on your marketing passion. So these are 3 things. How do these people work together? Who starts? Who's in the middle? Who closes it off? How does that process work seamlessly?
So I find the key to magic is if we all start together, because then you clearly define. So, for example, the CX would come in with the customer journey to say, how is this product going to hit the market? How should the start be? How should the peak be? How will the ending be? Right? But that needs to be fed by the sales teams as well, because they're the ones who understand which benefits would be best to sell. Right?
Because they're on the ground.
So if they actually feed to say, please ensure that this product, from a marketing perspective, you consider these key elements to make me a salesperson very able to sell. And the marketing team would then take the insights from these 2 areas and then create this magic product. So that by the time they then surface that product and make it go to market, that journey is such an experience in itself, because it's well planned, it's well prepped for. And when it now gets to the salesperson, they are confident in what they're selling. When the customer hears about it, they also can feel how centered to customer this product is, and how when they do get it, the benefits are quite visible. So for me, it's to say, along all key critical, there'll always be one who's more. So for example, in the product formulation, the marketing team is quite key critical, but they still need the insights from from sales and from CX when it comes to getting all the feedback as this product lands and it hits the market. The CX team becomes very important in making sure that they round up all the feedback. And then when it comes to selling, when it does hit the market and we're now pushing and making sure that we hit the targets that we have for this product, then the sales teams are the ones in the forefront, but they still need the backing of the other two, even as this product hits the market. Yeah.
You've nailed it. And in accordance to you, I'm going to be a little bit controversial because we've been squeaky clean in the conversation right now. Who's not getting it right? Well, let me actually just be very clear. You don't necessarily have to say brand X is not getting it. So we can talk about industries, for instance, that this particular industry is not getting it right.
Yeah.
And the reason you say they're not getting it right are these telltale signs.
Yeah. So I think the one that we all know about is especially from the medical industry. When you look at medical, we're just pushed with whatever we get, and we should be grateful, right? Because when you look at it, I've seen there's some feedback forms that they ask for at the end of it, but you actually have to wonder, like, do you guys do something with the forms that you get? And from an experience perspective, I do not think there's enough focus to say, you don't go to the hospital for fun. Right? This is you at your
desperate times.
Exactly, it's desperate times. This is you at your most vulnerable, and that experience will stay and last with you for a very long time. And it's a space where that could actually help you heal. The way that you feel will actually help you heal. And yet the experiences, if ever you speak to a lot of people, it's quite distressing to hear about people's experiences at that level. Yeah.
Sure. I hope somebody that's listening within that industry just takes a note, because it's a lot of people that are saying it, and it's quite a personal one. It's been great. We've sat under the sun. We've enjoyed the sun. You've highlighted beautiful things about your journey and the passion that you have actually for corporate, because it comes across. But within this journey, what has been the greatest challenge or challenges, right, in navigating the space that you're in, and what would be the lessons that one can take out of it? And then the third part of the question is, if there's a young Tabiseng out there who's just listened to this podcast and finds what you're doing so fascinating, what are the things that they need to look out for? And how do they also manage their expectations when they get into the world of work?
Yeah. So I think one of the most challenging, and we went to a women's seminar last week, and the workplace is made for men. Like it's built around men, right? And we're making quite a few strides to make sure that we find a way to incorporate women, which honestly is quite profound in itself. But I just understanding that it's not easy trying to balance yourself as all these roles that you have. And I think one of my biggest lessons is, when they say behind every successful man is a woman, right? But we also need to realize that for a woman to be successful, you need the same village that a man has.
Correct.
And having that village without guilt.
Yeah.
Because what happens is, as women, you feel guilty to have that village because you want to fulfill the roles that you have.
Yeah, and you'll be seen inadequate. Like, what kind of a woman is this? Gets so many other women or whoever to support her.
But but to come to a place where you realize that for me to be the person that I need to be in the role that I am, I need a village behind me. And this village to support me, for me to show up as my best self in my role at work. So I think for me, it took me quite a while to get to that comfort to accept help from the village, to be like, actually, I can't make that. Can you make it? You know. And another key element, especially, was the imposter syndrome, right? Because the more you rise, you know, you get to a point where you're like, are you sure? Are you talking about me? Are you sure? You could do a really remarkable piece of work, and you look at it and you start to second guess it because you're like, are you sure? No, this is not good enough. Yeah, there's a gap. Or I think the one that really stuck out to me was when you don't know. What do you do when you don't know, right? Because in as much as you're in this role, there are lots of things for you to learn, you know. And sometimes you look at it and you're like, oh no, maybe I shouldn't be here because I don't know, right? Yeah. But it's, I don't know, I will find out, and I will get the right people to assist us to get the best result. Yeah. It might not be me, but I'll get us the right people to ensure that we get to the success that needs to get.
It's very true. We all need to be comfortable at a young age to say, I actually don't know. Yeah. There's a specialist for this thing, and I'll get the specialist to say. Right. And I think people also gain a bit more respect for you when you say you don't know, whereas I'm now personalizing it. I mean, when I was younger and I was trying to push through, and I always thought there's something so wrong with me when I don't know. And I think that's why I was so hard on myself, that when people asked, I always had to have an answer. So I had to know every single thing, even though I don't necessarily specialize in that. So yeah, it's I agree with you. Sorry, I interjected there because what you said really resonated.
Yeah, and to a young person, be resilient. You're going to make mistakes. And I think one of the greatest sayings is, you'd rather make a mistake because you've done something than to stay and not to make anything. And for you to make it anywhere up any ladder, you'll have to maybe come down a few times and go up. And one of the CEO's favorite thing is to say, or favorite sayings is, growth is upwards, and sometimes width is also growth. Because sometimes just gaining breadth is quite an experience in itself, because you get to learn about other things. So in as much as it's good to know about sales, maybe learn more about finance, or maybe learn more about operations, or learn more about other things. So ultimately, yes, it'll give you depth. And what most of us don't realize is, with depth, you stay. And your longevity is better, because now you've got a broader understanding of things. You don't just become the sales lady. Yes. You know, you become the people come to for a varied and quite broad array of offerings or solution seeking, which is way better than being single-minded.
Correct. Yeah. And as you're saying that, it's connecting the dots. When you got married and you had children, you were in sales, and the commission was commissioning. Then Daniel came in and said, well, you actually need to go and study for that bread. Yeah. Do you now see the importance of that bread? You having studied, you now being exposed to the different fields, and you being able to articulate yourself so well around the different disciplines, because it's multifaceted. Just from a corporate perspective, you understand sales, which links to marketing, which links to CX, you know, and that's absolute breadth and depth. And congratulations on that. I'm still going back to your lessons, because now you're hitting it on the surface. What have been your personal lessons when being this amazing sales, marketing, and CX person? What did you fail at? And how did you recover from that? Because you always have to have a recovery strategy, as you said, right? From what you do. But from a personal growth perspective, what is it?
So I think one of the biggest things was just acknowledging that there was a point in my career where I grew very quickly, right? And when you grow very quickly, there are a few things that you not miss, but there's a texture that you miss out on, right? And I had to go back and learn how to lead, because the more you grow, you need to lead people at different levels. And my communication skills needed quite a lot of work, because the way you communicate cannot be monotone.
Correct.
You have to almost customize the communication. Right?
CX,
right?
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest lessons was, firstly, you cannot save everyone. Because in my journey, you'd want to take a lot of people on, and you take that on your shoulders. But not everyone wants that for themselves. And I think I took that on quite a lot. And that was a learning for me, even from a leadership perspective, to say, wait until the horse wants to drink water. And then at that point, then you can be able to assist. And for me, from a communication perspective, was, how do you communicate to people to ensure that they understand the strategy? Because sometimes you can push targets and push numbers and push this, but you need to remember there's a person at the end of that target. There's a person who, especially leading during COVID. I think leading during COVID was such an experience, because as a sales team, you're used to being in the same room, and you can measure the energy, and you can measure what's going on. Now you have to measure energies in different scenarios and create a vibe in different scenarios, and you're creating vibes in different regions. So it was such a learning for me, just to sit back and to say, how agile are you as a leader, and how agile are you in hearing feedback and being able to take it and adapt it, and to, like we spoke about service recovery, even in your career, sometimes you have to do some recovery means to say, okay, I really could have done that better. Yeah. And how do I, moving forward, learn from this mistake and not make it?
That's such a corporate answer. You can tell that she got leadership training. We know these things because we went through them. But that's fine. It's an answer, and it touched on the points. I'm so glad that you mentioned the COVID period, because it turned everything upside down. And to you, as a person who's had experience in sales, in CX, in marketing, who or which brand, and I think it's important maybe when we praise them to then mention the brand name, who, in accordance to you, nailed customer experience and sales and the marketing aspect of a particular brand at that time when everything was just upside down and things were just shut down completely.
It's going to be biased.
That's fine. Outside of your people. Actually, no. Outside of your people. It's not fine.
So when I look at COVID, I was quite proud of the SME segment and how agile the SME segments were, because a lot of people had to make their businesses online overnight. Like, for you to get your product to customers, you were moving it overnight.
Agility was
exactly. It was. I have to create a pay gate. I need to make sure I've got I have my website, and people can actually buy from my website. And when I look at it, the industry that really spoke to me was the restaurants.
Yeah.
Like the number of restaurants that moved into Mr. D.
They moved quickly,
so quickly, just to make sure that they can continue. And for me, what spoke the most was how, especially some restaurants actually took care of their people because they knew that there was going to be an end, and they knew that we're going to have to come back. So not only would some of the waiters now have to come in and cook, but you'd find some of the people being those to deliver.
Deliveries, yes.
You know? And that for me was quite a thing to see, because a waiter becoming the delivery person, it actually, one of the local restaurants would have a waiter that we knew deliver the food. Yeah. And it became an experience. Yes. Because now you're laughing and you're talking and you're having that conversation with the delivery guy, which was more personal than the one that you'd have had with Uber Eats or with Mr. D. So I think for me, when I look at the restaurant industry and how they had to be agile quickly, they really, really stood out for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I think those that were able to be agile within that period are thriving right now.
Yeah.
And those that stuck to their old ways are suffering. They really, really are suffering. Although there are some, I almost mentioned the brand. There are some that tried to become agile, but I think they didn't put enough resources or strategize properly on it, that they are dwindling right now. And these are really big brands. Yeah. So you're right when you say that SMEs were quite agile. And I mean, it makes sense why they're agile, because they're a small group. Yeah. You can navigate very quickly and run here, change things, adapt this and the other thing. Whereas with big people that were not necessarily innovating just before COVID, they struggled and they continue to struggle right now. So agility is quite important for customer experience. Right. So, ma'am, we've said a lot. And you've dropped quite a few nuggets. I think you were quite resolute in who you wanted to be and what you wanted to be within the corporate space, and also the army of people that you've surrounded yourself with that wish you well. The closest one being your husband, because that's also very important for us to acknowledge him. He's going to give me money, that's why. But jokes aside, you are what you are right now, and your passion is in what you do, and it translates into so many things. You then decided to venture into being a speaker to masses of people about this thing called customer experience and the breadth that you have. How did that come about?
So speaking was one of the things that came out of nowhere. Like I had that not written on any vision board or any oh, that's something I want to do later. But I actually had my first speaking engagement. It was 2 years ago, and we were actually at a round table and we were talking about sales and the transformation of sales and where things are going. And I think after that particular speaking engagement for myself, it actually showed me like I enjoyed this, and I enjoy imparting something to people and to open up the opportunities for other people, because sometimes people know what they know, and if you're able to add to what they know, it's such a gift for me. You know, I actually love that, especially when you hear from people afterwards and they're like, I hadn't thought about it like that. I hadn't thought about it in this particular way. And for being able to give myself in that way is so fulfilling that it makes the speaking almost like second nature, and it's quite effortless. And the more that I do it, the more that I see how important it is to have these conversations, to continuously speak to a wide array of people, to educate, and to be able to have an impact on someone who can later on say, I actually tried what you spoke about the last time and it worked. I think that is one of the most heartwarming sentiments that a person can bring you. So even having a conversation, for example, with you today, if it imparts like just a little bit to someone else, that for me is quite priceless. Yeah.
That's nice. That's like tea. I'm gonna paint another scenario now, and I just want you to apply what you know, right? I have decided to create sculptures like these, and because I'm a creator, what do I do?
What are your next steps?
What are my next steps? Because I need to sell this thing. I need to market it. I need to create an amazing experience. What strategies do I adopt?
So firstly, you need to value what you've created. Like what would you value that sculpture at? Because that will then show you who your audience is.
Yeah.
Right? Because if there's a difference if your sculpture is 500 rand, if your sculpture is 2,000 rand, if your sculpture is 20,000 or 200,000.
Okay. Before you move to the next part, how do I then value this sculpture? What goes into me getting to a particular value?
Quite a few elements that you'd look at, right? What is your experience? How much time have you taken to get to a point where you can make such a perfect sculpture? It's different if you're starting off or if you are now quite well versed, because that experience in itself that you've got is something that needs to be priced as it makes the sculpture better. So I'd look at that. I'd also look at the materials you use, because many people make sculptures, but the materials that are used actually add value to the sculpture. So based on that, then that would add. And you as an individual, who are you? What are you doing? Do people know you? And do you value your product at 200 or at 200,000? Once you have that, once you've got that bedded down, then you can come up and say, okay, so if my market is at 20,000, who are they? Who are the people that I'm marketing to? Where can I find these people? Which is where the data pieces come in, right? To say, using the data that's readily available, when sculptures are out for sale at a museum, who is the audience that comes through? And understanding that market will then show you how to come and market to them. So you'll find that people might actually appreciate the thought process that went in. What is the meaning of this sculpture as it opens its arms? Is it a meaning of release? Is it a meaning of freedom? How you paint that picture to that audience also adds to the experience, because they're buying into the full immersion of what you created. So now when you get to the people, then how do you get to the market day? How does your stand or your piece of work stand out in the museum? And how do people feel when they walk across? I think some of the silliest things are scent. Like you could actually attach that freedom element of the arms out with a certain scent that smells like freedom. And when someone does buy your piece of your sculpture, they're not just buying the sculpture, they're buying the story, they're buying the ambience that you've created. And when they come and they place it into their house and they feel that freedom, the next time they actually see a piece of yours, it'll be one that they'll be quite pleasantly happy to buy because of the experience that they've had with the first one.
So, normally when we close it off, I make another scenario. Say, with everything that you've done, everything that you have experienced, everything that you've learned, all your failures, all your wins, and whatever else is to come. If you were to write a brief to me as a marketer, what would that brief look like? And how would you, with the experience that you have, how would you want me to roll it out? Considering the three very important processes being sales, CX, and marketing.
So my brief would be one that speaks of resilience.
Yeah.
As one started a journey as a contact center agent and took all the learnings from there, and as you move up the ranks and you learn where you've got the marketing degree that you're now learning about and the different elements in which you can apply it. You take that, you tie it into trying to be a mom, trying to be a good student, trying to be an employee, trying to be a wife, and how all of those difficult and yet very fulfilling moments have actually made you who you are today, who have made you to be able to look at things in a holistic view and not just look at it from oh, I'm an employee, or no, I'm actually a mom. But you look at even any touch points that you have at this experience phase. When I look at CX, I see how I can appreciate customer experience because of the experiences that I've had and how I've felt at each and every moment in my life, and to see how what is important in each element of whether it's a product or it's a process or it's a relationship, which heightened experience can I bring to the table to enhance that customer experience. And what it then shows me is the moment you have great marketing and you have great CX, the sales becomes very easy. The conversations flow, you know, people are willing to come to the table and listen to what you have and come back to the table. You know, sometimes you don't even have to draw them in. People are coming back and they are taking what you have and want to bring it up and to enjoy it again, you know. And when I look at it, I see I would like all my teachable moments, my failures, my successes, to be able to add to someone else, to be able to bring more to the table for all of those. You know, you rise as you rise with others. You know, as you rise, may you rise with others. May my learnings and my shortfalls be ones that are teachable moments for other people. And I would have that, not in a book. Yes. I would have that as an audible, because I love the sound of my own voice. So I would love that to be heard, not read.
Yeah, because when somebody else reads it,
it doesn't sound
the same. It doesn't have that essence. So you would want to.
I would want you to hear me. But that for me would be how I'd want to have this, and for it not to be a journey that was lived by me, but a journey that people can look at and experience and take from those experiences. And may their experiences be better than mine because of the little nuggets that they get from mine. The journey that you've walked. And what would be the soundtrack to that? The soundtrack would be Summer by Vivaldi. I love classic music. It's the weirdest thing. I could be sitting and just listening to it. And anytime when I listen to Summer, I just think to myself, that is life. It has its peaks and then it kind of simmers down and then it peaks and then it simmers down. And sometimes it's dramatic. Just like that song, it goes through a dramatic phase, you know? And when I look at it, it's how calm it is, as crazy as it goes up and down. And that would be my soundtrack.
And there's consistency in it. So at some point the emotions will go wild and then we come back to the center. And then it goes wild and then we come back to the center. And in essence, it really speaks about the experience of life and how you as a human being choose to walk through life and experience it with all its ups and downs. It's quite interesting. Last I had somebody who preferred a Beyonce, and now I've got a person that prefers Vivaldi. And it just goes to show that as human beings who have authentic stories to tell, and within those authentic stories, teachable moments, we're all very different. We all have different brands. We all have different experiences that we want to share with people, either for them to remember us in a positive way or maybe not. But I don't think there's anybody out there who prefers to leave a sour taste in anybody's mouth, because as human beings, we always want to be appreciated in doing so. I mean, this was a wonderful conversation. It really was. And within the conversation, which is somewhat been different in all other conversations that I've had, is we were able to see the infusion of the different themes within your personal life as well as your corporate life. And those three themes are really sales, marketing, and CX. And the reason why we did that was so people could see the application of these important aspects, not only from a corporate brand perspective, but also from your personal life. Because when one goes out there and becomes a particular professional, at the end of the day, you're still a human being. And for you to be excellent and proficient in what you do, you always need to step back and think, as a normal human being that I am speaking to and trying to influence in acquiring whatever product, how would I want to experience this? How would I want, or rather, what would I want to spend for this? What are the critical value aspects that I need to look at so I'm able to communicate to these people when I go back into my corporate space? So it's been wonderful. Thank you,
Thank you for having me.
And thank you everybody for watching. We hope you enjoy this and you find it valuable. And as Daisy said, with her authentic story, she really hopes that they are teachable moments that you take from it and you apply them in your lives. See you in the next chapter. Thank you.